Far Cry is a franchise that is absolutely famous for its villains, but after you've made 5 of these things, going bigger and badder can be pretty tough until you get this man on board, the ever charismatic, the ever terrifying Giancarlo Esposito from the other side of the world. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me today.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I've got to ask, you're famous for Breaking Bad, The Mandalorian, The Boys on Amazon Prime, all iconic bad guys. How does Far Cry even fit into your resume?
Well, it's a good story, and that's what actors look for. For me, it begins with a very well-told story in a different medium that I haven't really played in. And it's really been fun to make this very specific game that is groundbreaking in the way it's being presented. Also, it was groundbreaking in the way it was shot. So I really loved the story that had a political element to it, and it had a leader in Anton who was trying to save his little small island from commercialization by other large countries that want to eat it up. So there was not only a political message, but also an economic message as well.
Now, I've got it on pretty good authority that you didn't just want to do Gus Fring all over again. So, who is Anton? Obviously, he's a dictator and a father, but what does he want? Why is he so frightening?
Well, he represents someone who has an ideal for his country, a vision for his people, and the country is very poor. He suffered growing up under dictatorship of his father and then was pushed out. So he regained power to really bring his vision about, which was new architecture, new infrastructure, all of these things based on the fact that his country had natural resources that he could exploit. In doing so, he has to, of course, as most small countries or any country at all, has to try to figure out how to pay those workers who are going to get all those natural resources and have them be a resource for the country. In doing so, of course, he has a lot of poor people in indentured servitude, which creates a revolution. So he's a guy trying to dig out. But the one thing I really loved about him, another thing I loved, was the fact that he's a father, and he's trying to pass on a certain his ideals onto his son, who's not quite ready to receive them. So it's a story about lessons and about learning, and also about mortality as well.
What are you doing?
Breathe, Diego. Breathe.
Speaking of mortality and lessons, you actually hand your son a grenade in this, so he's really not a typical father figure.
No, very different. A little bit of tough love. Toughen up, kid. This is a great story in that this relationship has empathy, and Diego has empathy for the revolutionaries. Anton, of course, knows that will be the end of the governing power of this particular island state. So he's trying to train his son to say, yes, you can have compassion, but you must rule with an iron hand.
And you must clutch them nice and tight, or we all go boom.
Obviously you're a father in real life. You're playing a father in this game. Did you take anything away or from that as being a dictator dad? I sort of assume you're not handing your own children grenades.
No, I have 4 girls. I'm not going to hand them a grenade, but I'm going to teach them in a way to strengthen their minds and their spirits, because we're living in a world where things are topsy-turvy and things are uncertain. And so you have to know where you're going to want to go. That's part of what Anton's trying to teach Diego. Know your route. Know where you want to go. Make a decision, make a choice. That's sometimes difficult without the proper advice in our parental advice. But I'm kind to my girls, and I realize that I must listen to them, because they have something to teach me as well.
How do you actually feel about playing these really terrifying bad guys? Early on in your career, you were on Sesame Street, if I'm not mistaken. You played some even wilder characters in other films, and obviously now you're famous for being the leader of drug cartels, chasing down Baby Yoda for all sorts of nefarious reasons, and now you are a genuine dictator in this. It just seems to get more and more extreme for you.
It really does. I'm of the mindset that in a world of today, and of course we're playing and throwing back between contemporary, suggestive connections in our great game, and we haven't even started to talk about technology that allows you to be part of that game. But there is, I do believe that people need to be told or taught, and because people have a certain amount of confusion and they want to be guided or led. thus the advent of all of our electronic society, that we're always looking for information from some other source, not from inside. So this is a big part of what I believe, is that, you know, when you're able to take control of the chaos and dictate, direct, suggest, manipulate, people will do what you ask them to do.
Speaking of that technology and obviously bringing Anton to life, I've seen some of the behind the scenes videos of you in the motion capture suit. I know you've voiced a character in a video game before, Payday 2, way back in 2014, I think, if your Wikipedia page is actually accurate, but clearly the technology's come a very, very long way.
Yes, it took some time, and it was a different way of working. I love the theater, and that's where I cut my teeth in New York. I've done 13 Broadway musicals and about 10 plays, and doing this particular project, when you're in a tight leotard and in a volume room with many, many cameras, as well as having a camera attached to a helmet on your head, recording all of your facial movements and recording all of your joint movements as well, physicality, a wide shot, and something that's catching all of your emotion, you're really having to work through all of that technology to create a connection with your fellow actor. And when I first saw the version, a little piece of that, I was amazed by how real it looked. And I know many actors are afraid of gaming and motion capture because they feel like they're going to put themselves out of a job. I felt like it was a learning experience, you know, because it was like doing a stage play for 2 weeks and then coming back and tweaking that stage play before opening night. And opening night is coming, October 7th. You're going to see Far Cry and you're going to be blown away.
They will answer you with screams, call you evil.
I played so many nefarious characters. This one is one with a heart and without a heart, and someone who's in fear of losing his whole country, but wants to take it back with an iron hand, and in doing so also wants to train up his son so he can be a great leader. Dictators don't look at themselves as dictators. They look at themselves as someone who's going to save their country. And so when you are able to enter this game and be someone who can be empowered to stand up, allow your voice to be heard, and try to move Anton off his pedestal, I think you have a great game. You can take many different routes to get to his castle, to his, you know, his White House, so to speak. You can take many different routes to join up with other revolutionaries. You really play a big part morally and spiritually within the game, and I think our audience is really going to love it.
You sound like you obviously know a lot about the story, Giancarlo, but have you actually got a chance to play this game yet? I mean, it's come a long way since Super Mario Brothers way back in the early 90s or 80s.
I'm sure it has. I haven't played this particular game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not a big gamer, but I understand that this particular game has a very new and different way of looking at our world. And I'm excited that it's displayed in this way and that people have a chance to enter it and have some fun, but also learn something about the political, economic, and personal structure of what Anton's trying to do.
I mean, it's quite funny that it actually straddles that line between, you know, a hardcore dictatorship, but then also recruiting alligators and aggressive roosters to help take down your enemies.
This is the truth. It also plays into people's, you know, to poorer countries have a way of making do with what they have. And that's something that's really an interesting factor. We live in a throwaway culture. And in the culture and the world of Far Cry, you use whatever you have to create the weapons you may need or the technology you may need to protect yourself or advance your revolution. And I think that's interesting as well.
Speaking of using those weapons that you may have, I mean, I've heard that given how well prepared you are as an actor, that when you were doing that motion capture, you actually brought in props like cigars and squishy balls to double as grenades. What was that about?
Well, you know, I felt as if Anton should have certain characteristics and be in a way a dilettante and relaxed. So I thought, you know, a cigar would be a great thing to bring in and have him be someone who enjoys that, because that's part of what is a resource in his country. And so it was a little, you know, homage to, you know, we go to an island country and they grow tobacco. Anton has other resources up his sleeve. But, you know, for me to get into character, when you don't have, you know, real set pieces or even a costume, because that's going to be then put in and made by these wonderful artists who have the great capacity to create and draw and color and digitize the whole world, something to hold on to that's tangible is a great thing.
Giancarlo, I have to ask you this question. I know it's not about Far Cry, but the nerd inside me will die if I don't. Is Moff Gideon guaranteed to be coming back for the 3rd season of The Mandalorian?
I think so. I tease that in a way that is constructive, but I think we will, without a doubt, must see Moff Gideon again. There's too much we don't know about him, too much we'd like to know. We don't know why he knows what he knows. We don't know why he wants this child. Is it altruistic? Does he want to take over and put the universe back together? Or does he want to be the ultimate dictator of that world that he inhabits? So yes, you're going to see more of Moff.
Well, we've got plenty of time to look forward to that, and in the meantime, I cannot wait to see what you've achieved as Anton Castillo. Giancarlo, thank you so much for your time, and I know Anton will go down as one of your iconic villains when Far Cry 6 finally does come out on October 7th.
You understand now? Prove it.